Welcome to the new part of the book Hyperfocus How to Work Less and Achieve More by Chris Bailey. Chapter 4 Taming Distractions. Music. There are an awful lot of factors in the environment that affect the focus. Even office temperature influences productivity to some degrees. One study found that 21-22 degrees centigrade is the ideal temperature for productivity. Lower temperature increases number of errors we make and how often we call in the sick, and higher temperature above 30 degrees centigrade decreases our productivity by about 10%. We are all wired differently, of course, so our mileage may vary. Before getting to how your internal mental environment influences your productivity, I want to zero in one more external factor. It may be something you work with already: music. While researching hyperfocus, I interviewed one of the most renowned musicians of our time, one who has sold more music than Princess, Britney Spears, Justin Bieber, and Bob Dylan. The man has almost single-handedly crafted the soundtrack to childhoods, and the video easily attract millions of YouTube views. However, while you may recognize his music, you likely will not know Jerry Martin's name. Jerry composes the music score for video games such as The Sim and the SimCity game that have collectively sold over 100 million copies worldwide. He has also created soundtracks for Apple, General Motors, and NBA commercial. Jerry's music is the perfect place to start when looking at how music influences productivity, as he has created some of the most productive soundtrack in existence. Research suggests that the most productive music has two main attributes. It sounds familiar. Because of this, music that is productive for you may differ from your coworkers' choice, and it is relatively simple. Jerry's music hits both of these notes. It sounds comfortably familiar since it is heavily influenced by the famous composers like the George Gershwin. It contains no word to distract you, and it is simple. As Martin told me, when you put too much structure in music, you tend to focus on it. The best kind of music exists in the background. There is really not much going on when you listen closely. The music is linear, changing without you knowing it, and it is supporting your work in the game. I love writing two songs on the repeat and have been listening to the same decreasing Ed Sheeran tune for the last hour. However, research also suggests that the most productive music is relative. Music occupies at least some portion of the attentional space, but it occupies less when it is familiar, simple, and also relatively quiet. As a result, music is no composition for quiet environment when it comes to focus, but of course, music never exists in isolation. If you are working in a busy coffee shop, music may help obscure the conversation around you, which are much more complex and distracting than the simple and familiar melody. If a loud coworker in the adjacent cubicle is on a telephone call, it is much more productive to throw on some noise cancelling headphone and listen to the music. A study found that overhearing one side of the phone conversation is significantly more distracting than the overhearing regular dynamic conversation. Your brain works overtime to fill the missing side of the half dialogues, so the conversation occupies more of your attentional space. Second-hand distraction is the real phenomena. Another experiment found that the students who focused on the lecture were likely to score significantly worse if they could see a classmate multitasking on the laptop in front of them. These distracted students averaged 56% of the follow-up test, while those who were not distracted scored 73%. That can be equivalent of going from D to B grade. For this reason, some researchers advocate developing an attention awareness classroom in which students can be mindful of the cost of distraction. On the flip side, Excessive classroom computer can use can also be symptomatic of large problem, like the lecture is boring and the students are not engaged. For me, the quiet scenery offered by the music on the noise cancelling headphone on a loud flight is much less distracting than the roar of the plane's engine. When I am at the coffee shop, they explicitly switch the soundtrack to the radio. I will listen to music. Your own experience with how music affect your productivity will vary depend on the nature of your work, your working environment, and even your personality. Music impairs the performance of introverts more than the extrovert. For example, however, generally speaking, if you are looking to focus, keep the music you listen to simple and familiar. Clearing your mind. Of course, not all distractions are external, as we also keep a lot of distracting stuff in our head. When writing a report, we remember we had a meeting that started 10 minutes ago. When we arrive home from the work, we realize we forgot to stop to pick up bread. Clearing our head of these open loop is critical so that they don't distract us in the moment as we are trying to focus. It is impossible to write about focus and productivity without citing David Allen's work. Allen is the author of Getting Things Done, a book with a simple premise that our brain is for having idea, not for holding them. An empty brain is the productive brain, and the more stuff we get out of our head, the more clearly we think. We are already familiar with this idea if you keep a calendar. You did never be able to think clearly if you tries to keep a track of all your appointments and meeting in your head. You did forever need to devote some portion of your attentional space to upcoming event, and this would be extraordinarily stressful. Keeping a to-do list has a similar effect. Each task you get out of your head and onto the list is the task that will not preset you as you are working on something else. You will be able to think more clearly and you will experience less guilt about what you are working as a result. Something remarkable happens when you externalize tasks and commitments. You work with almost no guilt, worry, or doubt. You experience guilt when you feel tension about your past, worry when you feel tension about your future, and doubt and stress when you feel tension about the present moment. This feeling vapors when you set intentions and make a rough plan for how you will complete your important task. You will think more clearly too. Externalize what on your mind means task and commitment will not pop into your attentional space as you are working. Maintaining a calendar or a to-do list turn internal distraction into external cues. You no longer need to keep in mind that you have a meeting. Your calendar app will do it for you. You do not need to remember to work on what is important. The task list on your desk act as a cue to remind you what you need to get done, especially when you keep your most important daily intention at the top. This concept extends for beyond your task and appointment. Keeping a distraction list as you focus will remove distractions from your head so you can refocus more quickly and deal with them later. If you are a worrier, create a list of everything waiting on your mind. Capturing idea that comes to you as you let your mind rest and wander will means you can make use of them later. Regularly reviewing a list of everything you are waiting for, one that records the important email, letters, packages, and phone calls you are expecting, will get this thing off your mind too. Some people can get by with a bare minimum, keeping a to-do list and a calendar, and find additional list of cumbersome. Others find they think most clearly when they capture every little thing waiting on their mind. I personally fall somewhere in between. Feel out your own threshold. Start with setting a new intention each day and keeping a to-do list and a calendar. Unresolved mental loop can tug at your attention throughout the day, especially when you are immersed in your most important work. Begin close this loop so you can focus and hyper focus more easily on your work. Continuously capture unresolved commitments and ideas as they come up and get into the habit of revisiting them at the set time later. This will free up a lot of attentional space to spend on better things. Working with purpose. Here is the fundamental truth about focus. Your brain will invariably resist more complex tasks, especially when you are first starting them, and when it does, you will look around for more novel and stimulating things to do instead. When you clear your working environment of interruption, distraction, and cues that will tempt you away from what you intend to accomplish in the moment, you will stay on track. This chapter was long for a simple reason. There is a lot of brush you need to clear before you can hyperfocus. Recall the three measures we can use to measure the quality of your attention. How much time we spend working with the intention, how long we are able to focus on one task, and how long our mind wanders before we catch it to do so. All three measures are supported by the tactic in this chapter. Creating a distraction free mode lets you carve out to spend intentionally while eliminating the more attractive object attention that would ordinarily derail your focus. Working with fewer distractions in general let you eliminate novel object of attention throughout the day and reclaim more of your attention for what is important. Utilizing both of these working model help you to train your brain to wander less and focus longer. Simplifying your working and living environment eliminates a slew of tempting distractions. Clearing your head of distracting open loop lets you work more clearly and free even more attentional space for your most productive tasks. One final benefit of eliminating distraction in advance is gaining the freedom to work at slower and more purposeful pace. One study, for example, found out that when we text while reading something, it can take anywhere from 22% to 59% longer to read the same passage. It does not matter if you work at the slower, more deliberate pace if you are continuously working in the right direction. What you lose in speed, you make up for the intentionality. Carving out more attentional space for what you are doing also enable you to work with a greater awareness of what distraction you are resisting and how you feel about your work, how much energy you have, and whatever you need to recharge. In addition, you will actually notice temperature and impulse that arises. So you will fall victim to them less often in the future. So far, we have covered the four stages of hyperfocus: choosing an object of attention, eliminating distraction, focusing on task, and getting back on track. Now, let's talk about how you can make habit out of setting the stage of this super productive stage of mind by increasing the size of your attentional space and overcoming your resistance to hyperfocus. Thank you.